Hello everyone, it's Rhea from Stargazer Creates, and I'm here today to show off 3 projects that represent me as an artist with hopes of gaining entry onto Graphic 45's 2013 design team. I'm totally humbled and amazed and honored to have even been considered, so thank you so much for affirming my creative spirit and inspiring this piece. This one I made especially for this audition. So I'm going to start off by showing my letterbox tray, probably one of my favorite pieces, made with the old Curiosity Shop paper line. A really nice paper line that incorporates both natural elements right alongside industrial elements, and I really love that juxtaposition of content. I think that their papers allow for just really unique creations by simply using the imagery they provide and then kind of riffing on that, off of that, if you will. Here you can see I've added a little Girl Scout pin, and this is a button from the Detroit Police close to where I live. So kind of some unique elements that make this piece all mine. Another little cute idea I thought was to trap this image inside of the bottle. Made it a little curious and fun. There's some watch parts in there and all kinds of fun stuff. I also tried to use dimension by popping some of the imagery out with a little bit of foam backing or something like that. So there's my first piece, the old Curiosity Shop letterbox tray. Next I'll show a piece that uses the birdsong line. You can see that I've incorporated some of the Graphic 45 staples here, using the vintage patinas and then following up with a little bit of Gilder's paste. That is one of my staples in my collection of art supplies. I use it on paper, I use it on wood, I use it on metal, and it really adds great dimension. Here's some extra filigree. I think these are the vintage patinas as well. Some Dresden scrap. You can see the back of the box. I've also incorporated some of the imagery. Here are the closures, a Tim Holtz curio knob and a hitching post, and I've simply used some seam binding to kind of latch it on there. I always use charms in my work, or often do, I should say. I like movement. I like to tell a story. I like to use these little bits of junk to make my pieces kind of special and unique. So here on the inside I've used seam binding to tie this in. This is the accordion book that comes with it. You can see that I've added some of the imagery on the inside as well. Here we have some big box store Martha Stewart that I've colored with a little bit of distress ink to ensure that it goes with my color palette. These are some Jolie's Boutique, I believe those are. I've incorporated some alpha stamp imagery right alongside of the Graphic 45, but keeping the Graphic 45 as the central line of imagery for sure. This is probably one of my favorite pages out of this piece. You can see here that I've stretched my embellishments and made them a little more unique and a little more, I guess, matched to the project by adding these Chinese coins behind the acetate, and then I added a piece of metal and then put the other part of the embellishment back on top. So really stretched that and made it, I guess, just a little different. Here we've used Gilder's paste on it. Love that. It's a unique embellishment, not sure exactly where it came from. It's one of those things that just ended up in my stash. A resin birdhouse, another great alpha stamp image, but it blends really well with this paper. I like this palette. These gals were great with the real stamp. So that's my birdsong piece. The last one I made especially for this design team audition. I wanted to show my ability to produce for one thing, and I really wanted to show something that was new. So I took some time last weekend and put this fun little book together. Again, I've used my junk and my charms thoughtfully here. I've got a G and a 4 and a 5 to represent graphic 45. I've added a lot of things with personal meaning. So for me, this represents, you know, time to take my art to the next level and going in the right direction with the compass. Here I have a key that represents success and transition to something new. Here I have a bird. I've embossed it with the airmail because I absolutely love all things postal. But the bird represents flight and having vision. I think I said the gears are hard work. There's another bit of postal ephemera that I kind of made, and a little bell for sound. So there's a few of the little bits in there. The book was hand constructed using art parts and sticky back canvas. I got the idea from a round robin where they had used an actual book cover in a spine, and I just sort of played off of that idea to make the book. Each of these signatures is 2 pieces of paper that I've creased in the middle and then simply stitched along the center fold there and tied them in with the silk ribbons. The silk ribbons have been dyed with distress stains. I used 3 different colors, one of them being a metallic, which doesn't show up here, but it's really quite nice, all the different variations in color, and there's a little bit of sparkle there. The outside has lots of metal. Like I said, I like to add lots of embellishments, and my stuff usually ends up being pretty heavy and substantial. So this is a reminder to me to not be afraid that I was born to do this. I added the graphic 45 tag and Audition 213 as this piece was made just for this audition. Some of the signatures I stapled a few of the pieces of paper together to make additional pockets where I've tucked in extra quotes or envelopes and things like that. So this poem here, it says, "My creative journey through time into possibility, believe, imagine, a lifetime artist." I've got several little sentiments, if you will, that I've used in here with the Tim Holtz Chit Chat stickers. This one says, "Write your secrets in a memoir." What's interesting about this book is the fact that I've managed to take, I think, at least 8 or 9 of their paper lines and make them work seamlessly together. Graphic 45 is quite wise in their use of color in their palettes, because you can't even tell that this was from so many packages of paper, yet they work seamlessly. Also, I've used ink a lot to make things kind of be united. So I've used a lot of the quotes from the craft reflections. I've also used the Tim Holtz tabs here, which I hammered to give them extra depth and dimension. And since my book was going to be chunky and wonky anyway, I wanted to just kind of play off that. Here again, I've stapled the edges to make a pocket. There I've got mica trapping my image. A lot of free form collage. I like to just kind of be free in my work. I know how to be fussy and tight like my first piece, but I'm a hopeful, determined artist, by the way. That's why I'm applying again. I like to really just be free in my collage. I don't always think things all the way through. I just kind of work on it in the moment and make it work. Embark on a beautiful and amazing adventure. This turned out really fat, as you can see. I'm kind of trying to race through it to get to the end here. This turned out to be a happy accident. I accidentally got a 6 and a 6 incorporated all in one piece. So there you have it. The world is but a canvas to the imagination, and I'm imagining the potential of being a part of your team. So thank you for taking the time to consider me, to tour my art, to stop on my blog, and to bring a lot of readers to my blog. I've gained a few new followers, and I'm really, really grateful for that little bit of exposure, even if it's just for the audition. So thank you very much, Graphic 45, and all of those who've tuned in today. Cheers.